Hello everyone, my name is Sudhanshu. I am the founder of Veltrix, a boutique consulting firm which works with organizations to empower them to scale faster. As consultants, we just do not share strategic insights and know-how. We work with our clients to get them to execute successfully on the ground to achieve success. Today we have one of our clients from Albania, the European University of Tirana, Albania. Founded in 2006, European University of Tirana is Albania's leading private institution, known for quality academics, international accreditation, and a strong industry interface. It is the first university in Albania accredited by the UK's QAA and operates with full alignment to the Bologna process and ECTS standards. EUT is internationally oriented with 150 global partners and Erasmus Plus mobility and is proud to host 30,000 plus alumni globally. Albania, as we know, is one of the few growing economies located in Southeast Europe, offers a safe, affordable, and unconventional study abroad destination in Europe. As a NATO member and EU candidate country, it combines geopolitical stability with a low cost of living and welcoming culture. To share insights about Albania and the European University of Tirana, we have with us distinguished guests from Albania and India. Let me introduce them. We have with us Dr. Selami, President of the European University of Tirana. Dr. Selami is a distinguished economist with a doctorate from the University of Tirana and extensive postdoctoral experience from institutions including Purdue University, Harvard Kennedy School, and the IMF Institute. He previously served as a member of the Albanian Parliament from 2009 to 2013 and has held senior roles in public administration. Dr. Selami is also a prolific author and contributor to academic publications and media debates. Welcome, Dr. Selami. Our next panelist is Mr. Tildi Cadri, a legal expert with over 10 years of management experience in law, public administration, and higher education management. He is the administrator at the European University of Tirana. Currently pursuing his PhD in contract and liability management, he has served in leadership roles with Albania's Quality Assurance Agency uh, in higher education, the UK's Quality Assurance Agency, and Albanian Post GSC. Mr. Tildi also lectures internationally on the topics including Roman law and international private law. Welcome, Mr. Tildi. List is Professor Dr. Krishna K. Ladha, a distinguished economist and educator with a PhD from Carnegie Mellon University. He is also a visiting faculty at European University of Tirana, and previously he has taught at renowned universities globally, including the New York University, University of Chicago, and various IIMs in India. Professor Ladha specializes in game theory, public policy, and governance, and has received prestigious awards like the Duncan Black Prize. He is widely published in top academic journals covering critical topics such as democracy, law, and political economy. Welcome, Dr. Ladha. Let us
Thank
start
you.
with you, Dr. Selami. Last week, Albania hosted a mega event with leaders from European Union nations and 20 other nations coming together for the European Political Community EPC Summit. I think so. My first question is very relevant given such a mega event hosted by Albania. Why Albania? Why now? I mean, why should one consider Albania to either study or for a job or migrate to
Yeah.
Albania? And
Well,
that would be
thank
the
you. Yeah, thank you again for having me engaged in this discussion about and giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit broadly about my country, Albania, and of course, Tirana as a capital and my university, European University of Tirana. Well, Albania has made, I think, tremendous changes, in particular in the last 3 decades. Albania used to be a poor socialist country, years ago, and with the fall of communist regime and the breakdown of communism, Albania struggled, to build a free market economy and thriving democracy. And I think in the last 3 decades, Albania has made substantial progress, making now a candidate country for full membership. And we expect that hopefully by 2027, Albania will complete all the negotiations for all the chapters of the acquis communautaire, of the body of European legislation. And expectations are that by end of 2030, Albania will be a full member to the European Union. So this kind of events, like the summit that we held this week, I think it's a normal activity that it comes after several other very high level political activities. Last year we held again the summit of the European Union member countries and discussions with the Balkan countries. And I think that as part of the Berlin process, which tries to strengthen the relationship between the European Union and the Balkan countries. And being that Albania is part of this region, Albania has become, a place of very important political activities. But in addition to this, Albania is not only a place for political events. Again, last week we had Giro d'Italia, which is a very global, I think, sports event. So we had, a very fantastic, I would say, race of the biking in Tirana, given that the landscape here it's quite appropriate for this type of things. We had also many other cultural activities and so on. So fortunately, Albania is becoming a truly European country in terms of cultural exchange, in terms of economics, and in terms of politics and so on. So I think that the changes that have happened so far in this country mark a tremendous progress that we have been achieving in the last 3 decades.
Lovely. So I just have a one follow-up question to this. Now Albania is, in a way, the way it is located, it's more like a gateway to Europe, right? It's right at the southernmost tip of Europe and between just next to Greece. Uh, what do you think it means for an international youth when they come to Albania and for the aspiration of growing their career either as a study or as a job? So how do you think that
Yes.
what makes it that unique as Albania? I know it's very
Yes.
positive that this kind of developments are happening, but from an international student's point of view,
Yes.
what do you think?
Well, as you said, Albania is part of Southeastern Europe, and we border Italy, we border Greece. But in terms of youth, I mean, we have become also a very important tourism destinations. We have more than 10 million plus, tourists, visiting our country. But in addition to this, I think that particularly specifically for the youth, as you are asking, Albania is part of the European education area. So. But starting, I think, from 2000, 2005, we became part of the Bologna process. So therefore, we have harmonized our education curricula mostly. Basically, we apply the European standards in building our programs and curricula, which has two major, I think, very important features. First, that it increases the mobility, so it gives the students the opportunity, to have a mobility from one university to another country and move, by taking credits, And so this kind of mobility, I think it's something that is fantastic, particularly for the youth. As part of this area, Albania, and in particular our university, European University of Tirana, has had a strong partnership with, as you mentioned, with more than 150 universities, mostly from European countries, and therefore exchanging students, our academic staff, for teaching, for courses, and even for having a joint diplomas, double degrees, and so on. So I think this experience has given us, quite important confidence that we really now can move to full internationalization of our operation by attracting and delivering, delivering courses on English classes based on a curricula that is mostly European and basically, quite much adjusted to the market needs and labor market needs of Europe. But on the other hand, Albania can offer also other advantages because having a European education in a very competitive country, because Albania still remains very competitive. We are in terms of costs, for example, so having an exposure to European culture, but in a very competitive way, I think offers Albania quite a distinctive, unique feature, and an attraction, for students who aspire to come in Albania. Right now, for example, we have quite a lot of, so far we have more than 200 students, coming and spending an academic year or a semester in our university. And I think all this has been quite a fantastic experience from the perspective of foreign students, mostly from European countries. And therefore, we want to capitalize on this, and reach much more in a broader scale, other students to join us and move together, in these challenges that we are facing as a global society right now.
Very interesting. I also read somewhere that while it's a population of 2.8 million in Albania, you had more than 10 million tourists coming to in this small country. It must be so. How did this kind of change the receptiveness towards the international students or international population in terms of integrating into the society, right? From the safety
Yes,
perspective, the concerns around
yes,
safety, security is something which is very natural to come to a parent, right? We all
yes,
are
yes,
parents.
yes.
So,
Well,
so
well, I think addressing this question now, it's quite easier. In early 90s, when I started to marketing Albania, for foreign investors. On that time, I served as CEO of Foreign Investment Promotion Agency. But we had a war on that time because Yugoslavia was breaking down, and it was very difficult for me to talk, and to identify Albania as a safe country in a region, that was very much destabilizing. But now I think that in the last 20 years, I think that with the conflicts in the Balkan, which are quite a peaceful region, and in particular, I think that the developments, in this part of the world have been quite accommodating, because all the region now is preparing for full membership to the European Union. And therefore, Albania, has never had any kind of, image of a destabilizing country. Albania has always been a distinguished, country for receiving particular foreigners. So I think it comes even from our tradition, that respect for the guests and the respect for, in particular, for the foreigners. I think it's quite a distinguished features on the Albanian culture. Therefore, the community of foreigners living in Albania is increasing, basically. So, as you said, our local population is 2.8 million, but now we have in large numbers, more and more foreigners coming to live in Albania, basically. So there is a flourishing real estate market, mostly, from the foreign individuals, buying houses and living in Albania. And I think they are taking advantage of hospitality in this country, but also of the climate and as I said, and so the cost competitiveness. So I think that now you find in a country, which is becoming more multicultural, so you have quite a lot of different nationalities, or people of nationalities, different nationalities, who are visiting and spending their lives in the country. So even from the perspective of foreign students, I think when they come to Tirana, they will find, a Mediterranean city, a Mediterranean culture, and with a lot of multicultural, nationalities, and that would be quite easy, for them to integrate in the social life of Albania.
lovely. Uh, Dr. Krishna, if I may uh, ask you, would you have any add-on comments? Because you, as Dr. Selami was talking about, a lot of foreigners are coming and being now part of the Albanian culture. So, would you like to add anything to what Dr. Selami has already explained about Albania? Any add-on, one or two comments from your side?
Okay. First of all, actually, I'm associated with the Indian School of Public Policy in New Delhi. And last year we visited Albania because we have some friends here. And from Albania we went to Greece. And so we had driven from Tirana all the way to Athens. At that time, we got a sense of Albania, which I had never visited before, and it was really good and very nice. And so we got along very well with our friends. Actually, some of them were newer. And so we at that time decided we are going to spend some time, and it just turned out this year we could. And so that's the origin of my coming here. And at last year itself, some of my friends, their professors, said, let's do something in Albania. So that's when I connected with the European University at Tirana, and I'm teaching a course here for about 10 hours, just have something to do. And so we are having an extended stay here. So I think, yeah, it's a beautiful place, no doubt. And it's a fun place as well. One thing I could say is, remember, whenever you go through a transition like Albania went through or other countries in Eastern Europe went through, there is a huge change. And when that change takes place, things are difficult, and then it takes, now Albania is 30 years, 1990 onwards, so about 35 years from that time, but still in a state of transition. So the one thing I can say, since we have been talking about career and employment, that it takes time to become competitive with other countries which are nearby. I mean, even Greece was in difficulty, and it took a considerable amount of time for Greece. So we can expect the same thing here. So there are some consequences of this. One of which is, which we know, is wage rate. So it is difficult to match the wages we have in Albania with, let's say, European countries. So there is an emigration from Albania to those other countries because of the wage differential, right? And that happened in Poland, that happened in many other countries, even you know about that. So I think one has to be aware of that you are not going to expect something, a miracle. So the expectation should be set correctly. That yes, Albania is a good place, but remember, if you're thinking about unemployment and the wage differential, etc. So the population that you're talking about, 2.8 million in Albania, I understand the number of Albanians outside of Albania is probably greater. And so hopefully, as we understand, Albania is likely to join the EU in 2030, or in fact, some suggest even a little earlier than that. We can hope there will be investments, and there will be opportunities, and there will be rise in wages coming closer, and some of the Albanians who are abroad might want to come back, like Indians are coming. So that's one point I wanted to make. The second point I would like to suggest is this. A student who comes for an undergraduate degree today, say 2026, I think.
25.
25 is now.
Yes.
So you're a student, let's say 25 or 26. Yeah. So they graduate in 2029, 2030. And so we should think about where Albania will be at that time, 2029, 2030. And there is uncertainty about it, but the silver lining in all of uncertainty is that Albania might join the EU. So a student coming in now has to forecast, okay, what will it be like when they graduate? So that's the other thing I could suggest is when you think about it, you're not thinking about graduating tomorrow. You're thinking about graduating some 3-4 years down the road. And that might, so now you have to engage in some forecasting. And some speculation of where will it be. And so I just leave it at that. I think many other things were said, and your own introduction was pretty good. So we can move on.
Thank you, Professor Krishna. So, given the potential, and it's a very balanced reply that we have got from Professor Krishna and Professor Dr. Selami. Mr. Tildi, what I would like to understand from you and our audience would love to have is a little bit more specific around Albania as a study destination, right? Like Professor Krishna was saying that it's something which is as an evolving country. Now there are traditional destinations like UK, US, which we know from India. People have been migrating to such Western European nations, Australia, and then we have these Asian and evolving Eastern European countries like Latvia and other countries, and then in Asia we have Georgia and so on and so forth. So, what is your take, Mr. Tildi, in terms of Albania vis-a-vis these destinations? And I do hear that there's a silver lining of uh, Albania becoming a part of the European Union, which I'm sure will happen. But EUT brings certain uniqueness, right? So, how do you like to highlight against these countries which are offering certain programs and the Albanian EUT program?
Well, thank you. I mean, it's an interesting question. If we want to make a comparison between all of these countries that you mentioned, of course, we are not US, we are not UK or Germany, and I believe that it is not a ranking, is a rating process. If you for some of the candidates who want to join Albania, I might say that Albania is an opportunity right now, as we have a saying, first come, first served. And for those who use this opportunity, of course, there is some added value to the education and to the standard that we are providing. So far, we have been successfully part of the European standard in terms of education, and we provide qualitative education. And if you put it into between pros and cons, you will evaluate that the competitiveness, cost competitiveness, as Professor Selami mentioned, through the proper and the qualitative education that we are providing, it's an absolutely yes for in all the terms. Well, I don't want to mention what are the specific of the upper mentioned countries like UK, for example, which the cost of studying is very high, pretty high. We're talking about 20 15 10,000 pounds per year, in comparison with 2 to 7,000 euro per year, which is a very strongly, I mean, pros in terms of the cost. But even the prices of living and renting in Albania, definitely they're very competitive, even in terms of the other neighbor countries. So basically, Tirana's rent are 40% cheaper than Italy, 30% cheaper than Spain, and even Croatia, which is one of the Balkan countries, it's 20% cheaper. We're talking about the Albanian private tuition fee, for example, they are 50% cheaper than Italy and 60% cheaper than Spain. So definitely, we want to use this opportunity while we are offering European standards with an affordable cost and opportunity to grow in this country. So I guess we can put in this term, but definitely we are not trying to compare the economy of these huge countries which are globally recognized. We are new into this standard, but we have this stability on which I guess it provides a very good opportunity for the students.
Right. So, if you have to ask, and I'm asking from a very natural human perspective, right? It's a perception when the cost is low, is the quality low? I know you are a
Right.
member of QAA, so I would love to understand for my audience that what is this QAA defines from a student's perspective, and how does Erasmus Erasmus Plus, and these certification help a student when they come in for a low cost, high quality, low cost study, but again mapped with
Mhm.
QAA, which you are the only university and the first university in Albania to be there, and then Erasmus Plus. So how does this kind of add value? And I understand you also teach German as a language for all the students coming to studying to your university. So could you just
Yeah, yeah. This is an additive to their studies, as there are a lot of other activities like personalized membership, like students club, like startup incubator, and other, networking of stakeholders of label market, etc., which are part of our portfolio and our activities. But also that catching the point of the quality and the accreditation basically the certification of the quality. And we have been undergone this process, which is a huge process and very prestigious one, uh, just to certify and to have a guaranteed for all the students and the parents that the quality that we are providing is compared, it is in line with the European standards, and it provides a worldwide recognition. And that is very important in a very dynamic Europe and a very dynamic world. It opens the gates for all the students to travel, to be recognized, this kind of degree all over the Europe. And that, I think, is one of our strong points.
Professor Krishna, I would like to come back to you with a. I know you have you you have recently started. You mentioned you're taking about 10 hours classes. I'm not going to ask any academic point of view, but as an Indian, right? There's the views. Your views matters as a parent. The views matters a lot from your own experience. In general, you have taught across the world, right? And you have been teaching for many years now. How do you see when you observe something in terms of the academic structure? And I don't want to go to the specifics, but in general terms, right? What do you experience when you look at something in Albania or maybe from the EUT perspective? Did you feel any cultural shock from the student perspective? Did you see, because you have recently taken a class on Tuesday, so last Tuesday, sorry. So how did your teaching experience go by?
I have a class with, it's a small number of students, and this class was organized at a very short notice, actually. The students I have, they speak English. This is a language is going to be always an issue when the medium of instruction is English or communication is in English. And I happen to have got good students. So, and they're motivated. And so we communicated, okay, can we arrange classes? Can we have some readings and on and on? And we have formed a WhatsApp group. I send them the readings along that. So it is working out. Today is my second class. So I'm in a better position to talk about. But the first class, I think, was good. We had a 2-hour session and we went over some basics in game theory, and they're serious students. But again, mine is a small sample of 2 hours and some 12 students. So we should take that with a pinch of salt. But there is such a group of students available here who are serious. And the class was at 6 to 8 p.m. And they came at 6 p.m. and they stayed till 8 p.m. And today's class will be from 6 to 8:30 p.m. So that also tells you something about, okay, wanting to learn. And my course is such that it doesn't really connect with the employment. So there is a broader interest in just learning. So that's one observation I can make. I really don't know about the structure here, but as for the culture shock, I don't think there's a culture shock. Albania is a democracy, India is a democracy. The food here is very good. Food in India is very good.
It's not that spicy.
It's not that
And it's
spicy.
not as spicy, which actually just so happens I like. I don't so spicy. But I tell you one thing, to get a picture of Albania, there's one thing I can share with you, if that's in the realm of, okay, is there a culture shock? I was looking at Albania and I found a comparable state in India to Albania to form a picture would be Kerala.
Okay, very interesting.
Albania has about the same square kilometers that Kerala has. Albania has a long coastline, beautiful Adriatic Sea, and Kerala has Arabian. You can also compare with Goa if you like. Then is green, about 35% forest areas. Its population, as you mentioned, it turns out to be about 1/12 of Kerala. And the thing that struck me, first thing was clean air. As I came from Delhi here, so you understand. Hopefully, Delhi will do something about it. Oh, the literacy rate. Kerala is about 99%. Albania is about 99%, right? So, oh, there is one more element I can add, traffic, which struck me as very orderly. And particularly if a pedestrian is crossing the road, like in much of Europe and America, the cars stop. So I don't think there's much of any culture shock living wise. So what do you need? You need good health. 4 years of education means good health you must have. I don't want to name our places, but here you have clean air, you have clean water, food. See, let's work backward. If they have to join the EU in about 4 or 5 years, their use of pesticides and fertilizers must meet the regulations of the EU. And I understand these are some of the best regulations the EU has. And so the food is of good quality. And I may say some of the food items, the vegetables here are very, very nice. We love the tomatoes here. So you see, if you are okay health-wise, so then the next thing is about education. You discuss that. So political system. Now, yes, it's primarily a single party, but we are also having a sort of single party for some time now. But there are elections, and elections took place just recently, and it's a democracy. I also think there is a respect for others, for fellow pedestrians, for fellow car owners, or whatever, neighbors. A small population has some of those advantages. And so that also teaches a lot of things to us. How we should have respect the dignity of others and be good. It's not just education and employment; it's quality of life as well. So I felt in those respects. Oh, one more thing I can add. We live near a lake here. And there is a path around the lake, which is about 5 kilometers long. My wife and I, we walk there every day, and it is absolutely beautiful. It's marvelous. And I'm sure, I actually not only sure, I know, having been to other parts, that there are these other regions elsewhere. So I think as an Indian, I would be not worried about any of those things that I'm going to a new country and all that. Language is one issue, but if you talk to a young person in Tirana, which we do, they speak English. So you just have to catch a younger person, and so you can manage with the language as well. But again, as I said, this is based on our experiences here. Which have been positive with respect to living and the quality of life, I might say.
Very interesting. But you have made a very, very interesting point, and I'm sure Indian students and Indian young youth will love it. Comparison of Albania with Goa and Kerala. Both are the high demanding holiday destinations in India, where people now go for quality education as well as to enjoy the life and weather as well. And
Yeah, if I may say, listen, we have different segments in India. So just as we discussed the range of universities across here in America, we also have a range of students who want to have education. If somebody got an admission in a top institution in India or a top institution in America, probably that person is going to go there and not go anywhere else. So we are talking about another segment where they are looking for something they can do better than what they are doing. And for that segment, it could well be that there are universities, whether it's in some country in Europe, part of EU, or still a candidate for EU. So that's where I think we can look at both we are looking at the supply side, but we can also look at the demand side. And, this is the market segmentation people do.
absolutely.
To see for whom is this place good. And I would think there are many who might find this is a place where, just to be out of your own country and the comfort zone and be in a different place, there's a lot to learn from that.
Thank you. No, that's very, very helpful. Professor Selami, I like to pick up from what Professor Krishna was earlier mentioning about, right? His experience of teaching in the classroom, though very little at this point of time, but I'm sure by the time the 10 hours get over, I'm sure he's going to add a little bit more to that. But what we want to come is to elaborate the innovative university model that you have, a little bit around the teaching formats, the programs, since you have been there, right? You have done this in and out
Yes.
for the EUT. Something that
Yes.
you can talk about in terms of your university model, the Albanian model
Okay.
of teaching,
Okay.
and then we
Okay.
can go some other questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, first, in terms of the structure of the academic teaching, in terms of structure of our programs, we have so far in Albanian language, we have been delivering more than 50 programs, but in English language, we have about 10 programs on which we can deliver lecturing. Our academic programs are based on the Bologna process, as I said. In Bologna, the reform of the Bologna, which includes all the European education area, basically provides for a bachelor program for 3 years of study, plus combined with a master's program, which can be a professional master for 1 year or a master of science for 2 years. So basically, that's the structure of how a student, can plan his education. Now, in terms of the program, basically we have been basing our curricula on studying the curricula of programs of other universities, of our other competitive universities, or universities which, from which we can really learn. For example, depending on the type of program, for example, for students studying on management sciences, for example, we have been looking mostly on some prestigious universities, mostly from the region Italy, for example, or Germany. And we have been even partnering with some of universities in developing the curricula. Usually we have been having programs, financed by the European Union to design the programs and develop the curricula together with our colleagues from European Union countries. So I think that that's a key strength of our programs. So that's one thing. And another thing is that through the exchanges of academic staff I think, and investments in training of our academic staff, I think we have been also able to develop in-house capacities, for teaching and education based on the standards of other European Union universities. And from this perspective, I think that the new approach that we have been adopting and trying, to create as a culture of teaching here, centering the students, a students-centered learning kind of teaching. And I think from this perspective, we have been investing a lot, not only in terms of training of the academic staff, but also in terms of developing labs and other tools, which enable our academic staff, to develop this type of teaching methods, which puts the students at the center of teaching.
Very interesting. So, like Professor Krishna was mentioning earlier, and Tildi was also mentioning, and you have also emphasized, right? It's a low cost, high quality, and Professor Krishna mentioned that there is a certain segment of candidates
Yes.
who fits in best from the larger Indian demography. If I have to ask you a very direct question, 3 reasons from your perspective where EUT should be considered by an Indian aspirant who wants to come to Europe to study, other than the cost. I understand cost is low. We have
Yes.
established it's a QA and Erasmus Plus, and there is, but beyond that, what do you think are the 3 topmost reasons? If you have to say, these are the 3 things for EUT to be considered for an Indian student.
Well, I think that this very dynamic part of the world, which is growing very fast, and I think from a cultural perspective, for everyone who would like to expose himself to a new culture and a European kind of culture, I think Albania can be a very nice destination. I think the number 2 would be that, as Professor Krishna said, here you can enjoy life as well, because I think many things related to development of personalities, I think you can be quite easily accessible to everybody. For example, in terms of good food and other, let's say, lifestyle that you can develop in the country. And finally, I think you can have really a European education, quite appropriate to the standards of European education, but also being close to a labor market, on which people can plan, for their future career, because once you are graduated, you have to think how to move to the labor market. And I think Albania, as part of the EU, would have much more important foreign investments, international companies that would be interested, to hire, highly skilled, and talented people. And Indians have an image of being, really very talented and smart guys, So I think they could really be part of this growing demand, I think, for the labor and for skilled, particularly for skilled professionals, not only on Albanian labor market, but also on European labor market, given the perspective of a full membership of Albania to the EU.
Lovely. So, and are there any research opportunities which are also available through EUT and in Albania? Or when people look at research, like you have done a lot of work around this, are these opportunities available in Albania? What is your take on the research opportunities? Is it evolving? Is it already evolved?
In what? Because, sorry, I didn't understand the question.
The research opportunities, the opportunities to internship, to do research,
Yes. Well, basically, our university also have a PhD program. So, as part of the PhD program, definitely, the research component is very important for our university. So far, Albania has access to European funds, for example, Horizon 2020, which is the most important, research funding from the European Union perspective, where Albania it's part of this initiative. So people, can apply for funds not only on the country, and which usually are very limited source of financing through our national funds, but mostly through the European Union funds. Definitely, we have access to very important financing schemes. Of course, in addition to this, I think Albania and our university in particular has developed, as I said, quite an important network of partners, in European universities, and we together apply for joint projects on the research. in terms of social sciences or whatever, in engineering, whatever kind of discipline on which we have some touch and some skills. So yes, I think through our university and students studying, for persons who come for study, either in a bachelor or in master, of course, they can have opportunities as Tildi mentioned, that, for example, they can have an exchange for an Erasmus program, so they can visit a European university for a semester or even for a full academic year. And so they can be exposed, to education or to programs, the same programs, in our partner universities, by which they can develop, network and develop, linkages by which they can capitalize maybe on building their future, both academic career or market or career on the labor market.
Very interesting. So how does this impact the how does this add value for so let me put it in a different way rather, and which is more direct. How are you seeing this changing dynamics, right, and this evolution and with respect to the jobs in Europe, not just in Albania, but in Europe? I know exposure is
Yes.
one piece, but how do you
Yes.
see that happening? And are there any employers coming from Europe outside Albania to EUT specifically for hiring students from your university?
Yes. Well, first of all, I would like to say that in terms of labor market, the dynamics have been quite interesting, in particular in the last years, given that there is a population aging, in most of European economies and in Albania as well, by the way. So the demand for young labor, and particularly for high-skilled people, has been quite high. So I would say that what Professor Krishna mentioned, that the salaries are relatively low, yes, but for high-skilled, I think there is a growing demand, and the wages, and incomes for this particular group of people are quite competitive, I would say. So and increasing very fast. In terms of foreign companies, yes, European companies investing in Albania, they definitely are working very strongly with universities. So far, I want to stress that, well, given that Albanian labor market has been relatively closed, so basically there was no mobility to European markets. So therefore, the labor market was quite not so flexible, so there was not quite a remuneration rate for people was not that much exciting. So, but given the changes that I mentioned now, we have a change in the labor market. So, for example, you have companies, and we have these labor market fairs, days that we organize even in our university, and even international companies that are working not only on financial markets but on manufacturing and other services and other industries. They work very closely with us to identify, students who can be hired. And starting from the third year, for example, we are putting students, they have to have some relationship with industries, and starting from the third year, of their studies, they can develop working relationship with companies. And we're very lucky to say that, in particular in the recent years, the employability of our students have been increasing very fast, and we are very proud with these indicators.
Very interesting. So what would be your vision for the university for the next 3 years, or in the next 3 years? Where do you see, specifically with respect to European University of Tirana, where do you
Yes.
see this going as a university under your leadership?
Yes, well, so far we've been trying to expand our portfolio of programs, basically meeting the labor market demands, and going through the social sciences now more to engineering and other more technical kind of studies, given that market trends have been more favorable to this kind of disciplines. And right now we are expanding, our universities in terms of infrastructure and preparing, for being more international. So far, as I said, our experience and exposure to international students has been mostly limited in terms of basically a semester or a full year course of foreign students in Albania. But now we want to move to a full having being part of a real international students community. So our ambition is that in the next 3 to 5 years, We will move to a new campus. We're building a new campus, well equipped with the appropriate infrastructure, and quite meeting all these standards and expectations of an international students, for a real student's life in a modern campus. And in terms of priorities for our university is that we should be more focused now on, as I said, on international students community, and therefore we're very much working to redesign all our infrastructure, in-house infrastructure, and actually devoting all the resources to prepare for this meeting this challenge. And from this perspective, in addition to what we said as accreditation by QANA, for example, we are applying for ranking by Times Higher Education, and therefore all the systems, for example, of research and particular of research and teaching are aligned to the criteria that are used by Time Higher Education. And in addition to this, we are trying to hire more international academic staff, like Professor Krishna, for example, but we're opening calls for hiring, international academics, and therefore we try to build, something that can be really sustainable, competitive, and quite meeting the expectations of students who would choose, to come and study in our university.
And do you see any changes happening in the policies at the government level? Like today,
Yes.
Albania does not provide post-study visa to search for a
Yes.
job or a spouse visa in the postgraduate program. So do you see these kind of changes to welcome more international students in undergrad and postgrad
Yes.
programs are expected to happen, or you see that still
Well,
will be closed from the
well,
policy point of view?
yeah, I think, as I said, so far, unfortunately, Albanian education system has been relatively closed, so it has not been quite open, to international students. But in general, I think that, in particular, in the last years, we have been working strongly with the government and trying, to change the perception and trying to change, the rules of the game and create a more favorable environment, for welcoming international students. Last year, we had a conference with Prime Minister of Albania and relevant ministries who deal not only with visas, but also with other documentation of Ministry of Education, in order to try to change, the system, or let's say reshape the system to accommodate for interest of international students. So I think that we now have a Prime Minister who is very much aware of the new strategy that the government, discussed, I think, some months ago, put a special emphasis on the internationalization of our education system. And from this perspective, I think that there is a much broader awareness now among the policymakers of the importance that attracting international students can have, not only on the local economy, but also even from a policy perspective in the future linkages of Albania with other countries. So I think that just now we are expecting, as a matter of days, new government decisions will be passed to facilitate, the visas, for example, equipping with visas the students, with new rules making it much easier and much cheaper, for students, to apply, and more accessible the system. And in addition to this, we are working with Ministry of Education, to try to change, the system in order to facilitate and speed up the procedures for diploma recognition, for example, or for this documentation that is important, for enrollment of international students in our education system.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Academics are only half the story when studying abroad, right? What about everything else?
Sure.
So, Tildi, if you can come and share some insight on next few set of questions which I have for you, which are a little non-academic and more to do with living and all, while Dr. Krishna has shared a lot of it, but just some specific questions which people would like to understand.
Sure.
Can students work part-time legally alongside their study, or are there any restrictions? How does this work in Albania, if you can share something?
Oh, sure, of course. I mean, all the students, especially the international, the foreign students, are eligible to work. We call it as a part-time. It's part of their unique Type D visa on which they apply for the study visa. Usually, it's 4 hours per day, so 20 hours per week. and they can work, and we can assist as a university, as you said. Academic are half of the story, but of course we do take care that the students can get the full service and can feel mentored and can feel welcomed and can understand the value of the education per se. But in the same time, we try to provide them not only with the job fairs, but even with our contact and stakeholders, on which we, before 10 years ago, we started a project, a very ambitious one. We called it the Business University, on which we had fully not shell agreement with more than 300 businesses, higher business, in different field, on which we to carry them not only for the internship but also for the employability. So even the businesses, as Professor Selami mentioned, the foreign or these huge international brands that are coming into Albania, they want to get their resources from qualitative resources from the university. So we emphasize even our curricula and even our structure in order for the students to get the full experience while they are working. So one part of the uh, let's call it office for international student, because we have two types of office: internationalization and international student. They have a part of their job, this recruiting phase and providing paid internship. And of course, we do that for our local students, but we are mostly attentive for the international students to get accommodated, and the demand actually is pretty high, and it is increasing, because even the businesses, even the industry, they want to have half prepared quality students in order to get it fully, to have the fully experience, and to recruit them while they are studying, so when they be graduated, they can work within them. So basically it is yes, and we do provide that. And of course even some summer seasonal jobs, of course, and to help the students not only getting the experience, the working experience, but also to help them economically. So it's part of our support, and it's part of our activity as well. Definitely we try to combine all these type of experiences, and we gather the suggestion and the recommendation of the businesses and the industry on which we have agreements with, to develop what are their needs. So we do support our students in terms of finding jobs, of providing a fully curricula, how to deal with the interviews, how to deal with the work ethics, and other part of let's call it education, and other part of being a good citizenship, right? Not only getting the proper knowledge and skills and competencies. So it is part of the mentioned student centered learning, on which we dedicated on each student, and we try to provide tailor-made education for each one of them. This is part of our job, and this is why we have been so successful. I would like to mention also that it was one of the questions that you provided, that uh, how we can manage to have a, let's call it qualitative, or how we can manage to have a job outside Albania. We have a huge alumni of students who already they work abroad, and we keep very strong ties with them, a strong network with them, and we emphasize and we collect them uh, time to time, in order for those students to serve as mentor for the upcoming students, or for the active students that we have it so far. And it is very important, because it creates a network of mostly more than 50,000 alumni, on which they interface with each other, and they help each other, which is a very strong point of the university. So this is more or less, but of course, as Professor Xhepa mentioned, we have even the we call it obliged internship, and we have also the stakeholders on which they come from time to time. As you can see throughout our social network, you can understand that it's a very vibrant life and activities happens all the times, and we invite businesses and innovation, which serves as a bridge between the business and the students, and that is happening 360 days per year.
Very, very interesting. I like the concept of Erasmus Plus, and we have talked about it in, I
Mm,
think so, many times today. But
mm.
question is, how does a university support an Erasmus Plus application? So how, just
Yeah.
from a student perspective, how can I apply for an Erasmus Plus and get an opportunity to undergo a semester or a full year or maybe a couple of months of internship or study in any other part of the 150 plus universities that you have? So how can I apply for that? Kind of
Well,
what does the university support in that process?
well, we have a dedicated coordinator for that purpose. Is the Office of Internationalization, as I mentioned, which it takes care not only for the Erasmus but even for the project and the exchange of the staff as well. This dedicated coordinator throughout our partners, she provides the application, and she provides the notification that we get from time to time, and it's a direct communication throughout the dean of student, a direct communication throughout the department coordinator and to the students platform, online platform, LMS, emails, notification on the university itself, on which we invite them, and we do take care of this, by the way, because it is very important, so we can have a huge application, so we can deliver more and more students this type of opportunity. And of course, the criteria for selecting the students are very minimal. It's a matter of grade, and it's a matter of English proficiency, and only international students will be very eligible to that. And that happens each semester, from the beginning semester, the end of semester, and each year. This depends of the type of application that we have, because as you might know, it could be a semester or a full year. So it is an opportunity that so far a lot of our students have been able to apply and to get it, more than 300 per year, and we have almost 100 incoming foreign students on which we take care of them, and we prepare a full experience, not only education but taking care even of their uh, extra, I mean, out of the university life, by being part of our students club, of our activity, of our sports club, etc. So we take care even about that.
Got it. So what would be, let's say I am a student and I have taken admission into your university and the European
Mhm.
University of Tirana. What would be my first week look like?
Well,
What when I land at the airport at Tirana, from there to the
Yes.
first week, what would it look like for me?
No cultural shock, as Professor Krishna mentioned, of course. But technically speaking, we understand that coming into a new country, of course, it is something delicate. It is something that you need support, and you need the university to be there with you. So we're taking care about that. We have a dedicated office for the international students, on which we have a psychologist, on which we have a lawyer, on which we have some program officer taking care of the documentation, and so on. So when the first time you will land into Albania, somebody will be waiting for you at the airport, and will bring you to the university to introduce to you, and to provide you the necessary advising what is going to be in this first week, so you can have a relatively overall idea what it's expecting to you. And we will take care about your SIM card. We will take care about what is a must and what is the procedure. Of course, we will accompany you to the Airbnb or the dormitories or the rented house that you will initially get to know us. So after you have done this, let's call it essentials, we as we do with our students or new coming students, we do a week of orientation week. We call it orientation week in order for the new coming students to understand and to get used, to get familiar with the procedure and the actors of this life-changing experience. And indeed, it is very important because it is an opportunity even for the student to socialize between themselves, and they create their own community by this part. And all the actors of the university, they get representation there, and we talk about what is to be expected, what is the regulation, what to do and what not to do, what is expected, and so on. So this is an important part of which we are dedicated, and as I told before, first come, first serve. So we are mostly welcome to accept all of you.
Thank you. Now, Professor Krishna spoke about food, and so did Professor Selami, and so did you. Now, Indians like a little spicy food, right? But I read that the food in Albania is pretty Mediterranean in that sense. So, will I miss the food, or will I enjoy the food, or is there option for me to have an Indian food there?
Well, surely there are very few Indian restaurants, but we have separated spices. We have spices. It's just that it's not within our taste to get that full flavor of spices. And of course, we have markets here, international markets, and we have all type of groceries. I mean, like all the European countries. So there is no lack of ingredients here around. But I would like to see this in an opportunity because, as we mentioned before, actually Albania in its, let's call it, fifth year, we are expecting 10 million tourists every year, and mostly of them, they will need such an, let's call it, type of cuisine to be added to our Mediterranean. So this is absolutely an opportunity on which the students can use to it. There's a rather than seen as a lack, you know.
Very,
Well,
very well.
if we will have more students from India, we can have our own department of cuisine in the Indian food as well. Why not?
Yes.
And we can build business as well. So
Sure, that's the case. That's the case.
yes.
Tildi, how many nationalities currently you are catering to in European University of Tirana? How many foreign nationalities?
Well, actually, I think we got Sweden, Spanish, Italian, Bulgarian. We got French. We got. I'm talking about the students.
Finland, from
Finland, from
Romania,
Romania,
Hungary, yes, which have been
Greece.
my
I
own
mean,
students, by the way. So
UK, Netherlands as
yes,
well. So
yes,
yes,
yes.
yes. I mean, it is attractive because I mean, in nowadays the information is very accessible. So you can understand that Albania, as Professor Krishna mentioned, is a beautiful country, and it attracts people, and it attracts. I mean, we have even these huge digital nomad festivals and techs, and it's a house for these high-tech nomads who wants to live abroad and program. So it's a place of which it provides security, a very strong security, and even in our stats there is no micro crime so far in comparison to the big European countries which are unfairly unsafe sometimes because of the population that is happening, and that is statistically happening. So Albania is pretty safe, and it is pretty stable in terms of welcoming and in terms of providing innovation and such on. So it makes it very attractively, not as that only part of tourism, but also economically speaking.
Yeah, and I do recall you mentioning that Professor Krishna has fallen in love with Albania, which was very evident when Professor Krishna was explaining Albania. And
Yes,
so
sure.
I do see and I can visualize how Albania would look like. And someday I would definitely love to travel as well. Professor Krishna, uh, just coming to you on the last piece of our segment is around the Indian community is fairly non-existent in Albania. What I read is about approximately about 500 odd families reside in the country. In fact, the Indian embassy opened its center last year in December 2024 in Albania. So the three factors from your perspective, I know you have touched upon this earlier as well. Uh, from an Indian parent and perhaps a student's perspective, uh, what do you think would be we talked about a lot of goods, right? And we talked about the academic hardships, but what do you think is a hard part for an Indian who comes there in Albania, from a general point of view, from a staying point of view or living point of view? What do you think is some of one of the hardest pieces which you would probably think would be there? You're on mute, sorry. Professor Krishna, you're on mute.
Thank you. I think a few things will help. If there is a group of friends come together, so that could be a support system. Plus, initially, less so in a college campus, but language, it could be some difficulty. But really, if you learn about 500 words of another language, I think you can manage your day-to-day needs. But it's good to have, some friends. So when I was a student, that was, in a foreign country, which was USA, we had umpteen number of Indian students there, and so sometimes you organize a movie, sometimes they're cooking together, etc. So if the enough number of students come, that will work out. I think that is one source of which is you don't have friends at all, and somebody who can share something. That one maybe one. But to balance that, there is one thing I find positive, although you asked me about difficulties, but since it didn't come out. You see, it's a place where you can concentrate and you can work if you want to work. There are not many distractions. If you want to be distracted like Goa, you can be. But it really, you want to work, you can work here. And I found, see, when Tildi mentioned about digital nomads, it's not your, group of people you are interested in, but there are people who say you want to spend a month or two, like I'm doing, but I still need to work or want to work. It's a good place. I think, as Tildi said, it's a safe place. I have not felt threatened. Although you have to be wise, I have not traveled at, say, midnight or something in deserted streets. I don't do that. But as long as you're smart enough, I don't see that something to worry about. So if you're thinking about parents, what will they worry about? The child is safe, is in good health, and is having good education. So I think safety is, I'm talking about Tirana, and I don't know about other cities really. I know about one more, Girocastle, which is also great. But other than that, I'm not so familiar. But it's quite okay. Now, food-wise, my wife and I, we enjoy food of all places. We certainly enjoy Mediterranean food. So we are not facing any difficulty, right? So, but if you have to have tandoori roti and dal, well, you have to do it yourself. But let me add a couple of things here, that some of these difficulties, if you just do Google search as to how to make your own food, think about a young man, woman who has never cooked, which is possible surely in India. They just have to do Google search and look at these items that are available out there in a grocery store off the shelf and bring it home and how to cook. It can be learned, and there are a group of students, they can really help each other in cooking as well, like we used to in our days. And you can bring your spices, I suppose. I think Italian spices and Greek spices are quite well known, as a matter of fact, and olive oil. Now, when there is olive oil, which is supposed to be, I'm getting into recipes now. So I think, I don't think if you have come to study. So one last thing I could say is with respect to, see, look, anytime you go, and I say this to students who come to me in India as well, where should I go? So I have two comments to make on that with respect to education. Number one is, please don't kill yourself thinking about where do I go. First, apply. And then wherever you got your admission, 2, 3, 5 places, then choose. And of course, admission application fee may be a factor for some people, but you have to apply to 5, 10, 15 places and then break your head over which one to go among those where you have got admission. Okay, that's point one. Now, let's look at, you just look at the faculty. Go to the website of the university, look at the faculty and the courses they are offering before you make up your mind. I'm just talking about your audience. And if you make a correct decision with respect to the university, which would of course includes the details matter, the faculty and the courses, the ones you are interested in, or once the, like an MBA, there are standard courses. Okay, which one do you want to take? Are they available at the place you're going? And if those decisions are made correctly, then I think all the other things become quite incidental or minor. And when it comes to faculty or courses the university has made, you can verify whatever the university has said. And this is true about American university, is true about any Indian institution of education. And you go on that basis. My final remark is this. If I want to buy let's say, pair of trousers, I spend 2, 3 hours. You want to buy a shirt, you try 5 shirts and you spend that much time. I ask this my students. How much time do you spend in choosing your university? And you'll be surprised. All they want is ask somebody to tell you where to go. And then, okay, it's on name basis, okay. No, you do your homework. And if you can spend 2 hours in choosing a pant, here is you're planning your career and going to spend 4 years, how much time you need. You obviously go through the university, its details, and with Google out there, many of the questions, you do Google search. You can see the map and you can find out what are the streets like and how clean they are and what are the buildings next. You can get a detailed map sitting in India. You really, and you can do all of that work, and then you have a very informed judgment as to what to do, right? So I don't think there is anything to fear here. But with respect to, I think the pertinent question was quality, and you have to do your homework, and it also will depend on which area you are interested in, and then what is the university offering. So that's a general comment. It's nothing to do with a particular institution, but that's what I think.
Very interesting. Thank you, Professor Ladha. Now, on the lighter note, I have just 2 quick questions. I have heard Albania does not have any McDonald's. I don't know whether you are fond of burgers or not, but Indian youth is for surely. Is that fact true that you haven't seen any large McDonald logo around Albania?
There are competitors to McDonald's. There are Burger King here. There is what is it? KFC.
KFC, Subway as well. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the local ones are so good. Really ask, why isn't McDonald's here? So maybe the people are health conscious or whatever they are making, people don't want. But there are competitors out here. And incidentally, on heavier stuff on a lighter point. The number of restaurants in Tirana is unbelievable. So
Yes.
many.
Yes.
I don't even know if they are making enough profit. Sometimes we wonder, how has Tirana sustained so many, but I'm surprised by the number of restaurants at each street. So I think there's a lot there.
Well, Dr. Selami has anyway offered to for enough students to come in, then they will have a pure Indian setup. And
Yeah.
Tildi has already talked about supporting and setting up a business of the Indian restaurant. So I'm sure that is going to
Sure,
just
sure.
add up to the competition. Just the last one, and this one is very interesting. I read on the internet that nodding head like this, while in India it means yes, in Albania it
Yes.
means no.
Well,
So,
like
is
this
this
is a
really
point.
true?
Yes.
So,
This is something very, very specific to Albania, because I have my cousins in Italy who has changed their behavior now. And when they want to discuss with us, they noted this difference in the signs, the way we approve or we disapprove. So
yeah.
we are
So,
against the tide on this from this perspective. Yes.
so this is means yes in Albania, right? And this means no.
But you get used to it very fast, don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you. So, well, this has been a very interesting conversation. But before we end this conversation, uh, Professor Ladha, your final comments to start with you, and then Tildi, and then Professor Selami. So, your last comments overall in terms of Albania, EUT, anything that you would like to add up?
I think Albania is less known in India, but it's a great place. When we came here last year, we were not sure, but I was surprised. I was ignorant, and then we read about it, and then we visited places. One thing I find would be the people here are very nice, and that's another thing. You see, when we were in Greece last year, tourists in Greece were complaining that there are too many tourists. And as you must know by now, tourists have become a burden for many countries. I don't want to name them. And in Albania, they're welcome. So I have felt, if I go to another country and then suddenly you find you're not welcome in that because they have too many tourists, mind you, this is only because there are too many tourists and the people are disturbed every day. Another place where you're welcome. So I think it's a very nice place, very good place. It's basically sandwiched between Italy and Greece, two ancient civilizations. And they had a significant influence in Albania as you go around. So I think it's a historic country where a lot to do, a lot to see. I think it's safe. I think is good for health, as I mentioned multiple times now. And finally, you can study here without distraction. What I cannot speak to is with respect to, which place to go and study. And I think if I were to say people here, I know two professors here, the dean and the president, and they are wonderful, they are great, they are very helpful. And if that's the kind of people around here, I don't know other people here. So, Tildi,
Yes, I confirm it. It's the same quality.
Professor Xhepa teaches history of economic thought. And I just look at this way, the way I infer this one is if he's teaching history of economic thought, there are students taking it. And if there are students who are interested in history of economic thought, that's an intellectual place as far as I'm concerned. So you draw some inferences of that kind, what courses are offered, and then arrive at the educational side.
Thank you, Professor Ladha. I think so that speaks a lot about in a very, very subtle way. which you have talked about, and we appreciate your inputs on that.
You're welcome.
Tildi, last comments from your side.
Well, I mean, a lot have been said so far, and the main comment that I want to do is I want to put it in 3 words. I mean, opportunity, European experience, European quality. And I want to emphasize in the first one because that is our motto, and that is what we're taking care of, providing you with opportunity. Opportunity to get a good investment, which is education, opportunity to get a quality experience, a quality network, which will accompany you and will be with you for the rest of your life. This is the way how the words it's combined, an opportunity to get a dedicated education. So this is my 3 points, 3 pillars.
Thank you, Tildi. And you have been emphasizing this, I think, so over our so many conversations that we had, and I do see that every conversation we have is emphasizing these 3 pieces from your end, and very glad that that becomes the motto for the university. And with your leadership, I'm sure it's trickling down.
Thank you.
Professor Selami, your last comments for Indian
Yes.
parents, Indian students, and the audience, whoever sees this around the world.
Yes, I'm trying to concentrate and not to repeat what my colleagues said with regard to the country and hospitality and things. But I would like to say that for students who choose to be enrolled in our program, they will find highly motivated organizations to help them make their experience a success, and to help all these international students who will trust their education to our organization, that they will find the whole structure, all the people standing by them and trying to help and facilitate and make their stay not only efficient in terms of the academic work, but also in terms of integrating them in social life and making these people feel home, and build maybe future relationship with this country and stay here maybe for a much longer time rather than just getting their education here.
Thank you, Professor Selami. I think so. So first of all, thank you to all 3 of you to take out time from your busy schedule. I think so. This was important. But what I definitely take away from today's session is uh, a good quality education, which has been emphasized, not just an Albanian standard, but a European standard. A low cost education in a high quality. So we call it in India, it's or in Hindi it is chota packet, large bada dhamaka. It's like small dose of packet and a big explosion, right? So
Yeah.
it's something which is what is getting evident out here. And as Professor Krishna has kind of very interestingly emphasized upon, is the quality of living, what we expect, what students look for, the opportunity to do if I intend to do, and that's the whole reason why I would want to move out. So that is something which has been emphasized: the quality of food, the quality of health. The employers which Professor Xhepa and Tildi, you mentioned, are coming not just from Albania but from other parts of the Europe. And very interestingly, a point which kind of just passed by was, while Indian students are looking for UK, Finland, and other countries to study, students from these countries are coming to Albania to study. I think that makes a lot of statement in terms of uh, the intellectual uh, uh, and qualitative education which Albania is offering uh, to the students within Europe as well. So thank you, gentlemen. I'm sure our audience is going to benefit from this conversation. I'm sure this will give them a lot of insight and a lot of ease to make a decision. And we hope that they research for more than 2 hours, as Professor Krishna suggested, and not just uh, ask for opinion from their friends, and can see from the fact that European University of Tirana is doing a lot and lot more to provide a qualitative, accessible education to the youth globally, and especially to the Indian youth. Thank you once again, and have a great day.